The Muv-Luv series is known as a classic, legendary title among all visual novels, for what started out as a simple harem rom-com transformed into one of the most critically acclaimed visual novels of all time, even directly inspiring works such as Attack on Titan. However, while its final installment, Muv-Luv Alternative, is so highly praised, not many people aren't as receptive to its predecessor, Muv-Luv Extra, to where people even considered skipping Extra just to read Alternative, which is just insane. Hi, my name is August, and I'm going to dive into Muv-Luv and tell you all about its faults and problems, but at the same time, show you why Muv-Luv Extra and Unlimited is actually way better than you might expect, along with all the special qualities that make it worth reading. Believe me when I tell you, all the rom-com shenanigans have meaning. Not exactly the most thrilling sounding start ever, even more so when you are expected to read through adolescent school antics and over-the-top slapstick humor. Muv-Luv tells the story of Takeru Shirogane, a typical school student living a normal life with his childhood friend Sumika Kagami. However, his world is thrown into chaos when he finds a mysterious girl named Maya Mitsurugi sleeping in his bed one morning. And thus, this creates a fierce love triangle that will change the lives of these three characters forever. It is very much a classic rom-com premise. Maya, a very refined and honorable woman, arrives to provide plenty of the over-top extremities that the story has to offer. I wouldn't expect anything less as the heiress to one of the largest and richest corporations on Earth. The girl is out here strutting her stuff, finances, top-class maids, and Initial D reference in tow, all to try to court favors with our ordinary boy Takeru. Meanwhile, Sumika, Takeru's longest childhood friend and the girl next door since forever, has to deal with a new challenger approaching. To no one's surprise, you and I both know Sumika has very obvious feelings for our poor, dense main character, and Sumika's sure as hell not going down without a fight. And yet, despite all of that, Muv-Luv Extra is a constantly developing story of these three's relationship with each other, with Sumika and Maya growing to become intimate friends, while also becoming each other's fiercest rivals. And then you have three other girls entering the ring because Sumika, the world's greatest soldier, needed to gain the strength to endure through the pain 4 parallel world timelines over. This is a visual novel where Takeru is given choices all throughout the story on which heroine he wants to pursue romantically. Of course, there's Sumika and Maya, but we also have Chizuru, the steadfast, disciplinary-like class rep, Kei, the stoic and yet rebellious and eccentric, and Miki, the small, energetic, kind-hearted classmate. Initially, stereotypical heroines, yes, but much deeper characters once you get to know their personal situation and relationship dynamics. But for right now, they are here to provide reactions to Sumika, Maya, and Takeru's wildly absurd antics. Again, it's very over the top. Jokes are accompanied with live animated sprites, chibi artwork, and very, very expressive reactions, used effectively when Maya summons a helicopter cavalry with a single command. Extra's a surprising amount of fun, and there's always some tomfoolery going around. This makes up a fair amount of Extra's content, and that's both good and bad. To anyone unenthusiastic about the rom-com content, that's just a matter of things. You'll have to wait a little bit more for that juicier stuff later. It's like waiting through Higurashi's slice of life bits in order to get to the horror stuff. You have to watch the cast play their fun little games before the bloody bodies show up. Events seemingly irrelevant at first, but eye-openingly important in retrospect. Me trying to convince people that Takeru running into Sumika in the bathroom is an extremely important canon event makes me sound like a madman. I understand that feeling. Extra, at the start, didn't have a compelling forward momentum to make me want to continue reading. Arguably, there's no immediate serious stakes in this conflict. Yes, there's subtle romantic progression, but for the longest time, I felt like I was playing a game of whose lunch am I going to eat today, and then choosing the character who I wanted to win. Although, if I was being accurate, I would have chose no one because I'm role-playing Takeru and his lack of commitment. It's because of this that I actually held off on fully completing Muv-Luv because I just couldn't get past Extra for the longest time for over 2 years. A bunch of stuff came out, it just happens. But when I did return to read it, I just couldn't stop. My playtime went from reading Extra unenthusiastically for 3 months to basically reading both Unlimited and Alternative in under 2 weeks. Extra is not a bad visual novel story. The problem, I believe, is the super high expectations of Alternative, both highlighting Extra's subpar experience and overshadowing Extra's legitimate merits. When in actuality, Extra is an okay romance title. Although those more cynical towards Extra would call it more mediocre. Calling it the equivalent to water torture is a bit overreactionary personally, but for people who aren't fans of the older style of anime romance comedy, your concern is noted. I think it's fine, even more so when you realize that Extra can be seen as an extended character introduction for the rest of the series. Events and character-specific backstories in Extra are actually referenced in Unlimited and Alternative, so you'll be missing out if you don't read them and all of the character routes. Don't go into Extra thinking it's a chore. It actually might surprise you with how charming these characters are, because Extra turns into a pretty compelling character drama. This love triangle is one big feud, but it also subconsciously opened their eyes to a glaring flaw they all have. Sumika finding Maya in Takeru's bed was basically the catalyst for everything. It's pretty much tackling that fatal sense of complacency that these characters have. They've had this feeling for so long that when change happens, it basically wrecks their entire world. When it comes to romance, that feeling can be devastating, and you can see Sumika and Maya's subtle agony dealing with it. Let me tell you, watching these two girls be sad is not a fun feeling. Extra is supposed to be a lighthearted comedy. However, the story shows how they dedicate themselves to overcoming it. In fact, every heroine has their own specific insecurities/problems that they are subconsciously struggling with, and you'll see that in their route. The other girls may seem like cookie-cutter archetypes, but their route reveals more depth into why they act the way they do and why they feel so strongly about certain topics. To which then Takeru is there to help them out. Not exactly the knight in shining armor, but still the harem rom-com protagonist. I don't like Takeru in Extra. He's stubborn, brash, immature, and infuriatingly dense at times. Him hitting Sumika makes me frown. But I will admit, he makes up for it a little bit in sheer attitude and charisma when needed at the right time, because he genuinely cares for the girls as he spends more time with them. He may choose one heroine in the end, but he likes all of them, to where he's willing to go far for them in their routes. Of course, he makes a fair amount of mistakes along the way. I found myself irritated watching Takeru's actions, but I slowly grew to eventually like him when he finally does get it. Somewhat. He can be unlikable to some readers, but I found him acceptable at the end. To which I have to say, honest props to the authors. I can't exactly explain it practically, but they have a certain way of writing Takeru that can get you moved emotionally regardless if it's positive or negative. Takeru's transformation is something worthwhile, and that's a recurring concept all throughout the Muv-Luv story, not just Extra. Now, the actual Muv-Luv game is split into two separate titles/sections, Muv-Luv Extra and Muv-Luv Unlimited. This is the point in the video where I have to raise huge spoiler warnings for Unlimited because after Extra, the story drastically changes. From this point on, the story unloads a boatload of much heavier stuff, and also the details everyone's been waiting for. Because, oh boy, I didn't expect for this slice-of-life rom-com to hard genre shift into a hardcore post-apocalyptic sci-fi military story. After waking up one day, Takeru realizes that the town he used to live in is all in ruins. Shocked, he tries to convince himself that this is one crazy dream. But after being suddenly recruited into the UN military to fight the Beta, extraterrestrial aliens who drove humanity to the brink of extinction, he slowly starts to realize that this world is now his new reality. This was certainly a story pivot. I may not be experienced in writing, but I'm sure the sudden plot twist of all of a sudden aliens attacked is never the right move. But as you read Unlimited, you'll slowly realize that the writers of Muv-Luv were planning this from the very beginning. From quantum mechanics to character-specific arcs to even the lacrosse game, familiar plot elements come back up, and they are more serious than ever before. Muv-Luv be like, I hope you are paying attention. A simple disagreement in Extra might be no big deal, but in Unlimited, the consequences of that disagreement might be the difference between life or death. The benefit of Unlimited is that you can see subtle differences between the two worlds, between the atmosphere, characters, and key events. Takeru's female classmates are still here, and they very much have the same personalities, but it's now applied to this bleak, militaristic world. At the same time, you'll also feel the drastic changes too. More specifically, the disappearance of Sumika Kagami. Feeling puzzled, I asked online where's Sumika Kagami, to which then I was prompted with a don't worry about it, which only proceeded to make me more worried. The whiplash going from Extra to Unlimited is one big driving appeal. Lots of questions are raised. What happened in this world? What the hell are the Beta? How did Takeru even get here? And how badly is he going to get his ass whooped? Found out the answer to that last one pretty damn quickly. There's a part of me that's joyful in seeing Takeru's world get wrecked for once, only to remind myself that I'm the one playing the guy. Remember what I said about that fatal sense of complacency? Well, Takeru is gonna learn how privileged and how laid back his attitude in Extra was. That's right. No more ignoring Yuko's lectures. Understood. The military sci-fi in Unlimited is very dense with information. Political mind games between countries, military tactics and operation breakdowns, formal army training sequences, the whole genre theater. Helpful and terrifying graphs and images included. You can really sense with Unlimited and Alternative, the authors were just writing up a storm of world building, in-depth lore, and elaborate battle plans. Writing romance was fun, military sci-fi is their true passion. And you'll see a lot more of that in Alternative. I'm a fan. It's so detailed and it really had me invested in the world these characters are in, which in turn made me even more appreciative of the cast as well. They are still the heroines from Extra, just one alternative world away. To be honest, because of all the serious military stuff, I had actually forgotten that this was also still a romance story. All of their interactions has that same energy. The environment is just different. This bleak world that they live in now becomes the core reasons on why they act the way they do. I like seeing this slightly altered side to them, adding more depth while also adhering to the ongoing main conflict. This also applies to characters outside of the main heroines. Marimo, while still being one strict as hell sergeant, is still a lovable, upstanding person. And even Yuko, someone who adapted to being a more serious, discerning, and closed-off individual, something that I thought I would never see, has moments of her true attitude underneath, the extremely rare instances they are. By being in this army training environment, with the struggle for humanity underlining everything, that sense of camaraderie becomes more intimate and passionate. I get that as a high schooler, mishandling a love situation can feel like the end of the world, but as a soldier about to die, simply thinking about a girl back home weighs a bit differently. Those stakes give tension and significance. However, we also can't forget the moments of reprieve and relaxation, as those are equally as important. It's a very well-structured setup. As for Takeru himself, he's gonna need the girls to help him out mentally, considering he lost his arguably biggest anchor. Whether Kasumi can fulfill that role is another question though. I may have lost Sumika, but, and I hate to say it, the replacement, Kasumi, is my new best friend. She may not be Sumika, but she makes up for it by honestly being the cutest Muv-Luv girl so far. She's a very shy and soft-spoken girl, but also very mysterious as well. Her reactions and expressions in her conversations are very adorable. Just her being there is healing. If there's one thing I wish Unlimited did more, it's develop more of her character and intentions. Right now, a huge part of Kasumi lies in her plot utility, which is kept under lockdown for a huge part of the story. Very understandable, very big, highly confidential energy. If Extra was the main heroine's cast's extended introduction, Unlimited is Kasumi's extended introduction. In due time, I suppose.
But that's not the only person I found interesting.
The biggest change I found eye-opening was Mikoto. A character who was once a boy in Extra is now a female in Unlimited. A fair amount of jokes were made about Mikoto's appearance/gender in Extra, but it's a different story when Mikoto, very much a female, combined with her usual upfront personality, gives Takeru caution when interacting with her. So when Takeru sees Mikoto as a legitimate romantic interest, it really serves as a definitive statement of Takeru's change and acceptance of the Unlimited world. His gradual development is why I like Unlimited. It's a significant turning point. In Extra, he's stubborn, brash, immature, and infuriatingly dense at times. And to be honest, he's still childish at times in here. The environment makes it even more apparent. Like, the boy took too long to confess to a girl. What makes me think that this man is capable of making immediate decisions on the front lines? But it's in that character progression in the story that I really respect. The constant comparison between his old world and the new one, despite happening way too much, is a mental reminder for him to take action. He's also willing to provide commentary, advice, and a positive outlook to those around him, like an isekai protagonist bringing modern knowledge to help those around him. And yet, that fresh perspective highlights not just his adaptability, but also his shortcomings. He does make justified points about the ongoing war conflict, but at the same time, the story also points out the flaws and unrealistic expectations of his ideas. For every reminder to adapt, he's also reminded of how much of an anomaly he is to this world and how he's truly not a part of it. This constant bulk of progression, reframing, and readjusting from his old attitude to grow the up, essentially, is what makes Unlimited solid, and how it builds up the story as it goes into alternative is really nice. I actually consider Unlimited's ending sequence to be up there as one of my favorite visual novel endings of all time. Granted, it's very bittersweet, but that's just a personal taste. Muv-Luv Extra and Unlimited is worthwhile, and you really need to read it to fully prep yourself for alternative. If Extra was the character introduction and Unlimited is the training arc, then alternative is the big climactic fight itself. Yes, there are aspects in both Extra and Unlimited that some readers may find outside of their typical comfort zone, but I do firmly believe that the journey has merits in it, and you'll be happily rewarded in the end. Or, well, emotionally crushed, but I guess that feeling of catharsis is that payoff. I would like to thank everyone on Patreon for supporting me in covering visual novels. You guys are fantastic, and if you'd like to be a part of that effort, please consider subscribing. Now, if you want to see my thoughts on Muv-Luv Alternative, you want to click on this video over here, or if you want my full reaction and experience of the whole story, you want to click here. I'll see you later. Bye bye.